Welcome back, pod people. This month, we're doing something slightly different from usual. Today, my guest is Rudi Womack, the director of the Wyoming International Film Festival, which I first heard about because he posted a number of useful threads detailing some behind-the-scenes information and how your films get judged and how a festival is put on Reddit, which made me want to learn more and have this conversation. So thank you for coming on, Rudi.
Hey, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. So, the Wyoming International Film Festival. First question, what do you mean when you say international? What are you trying to get across that's like different from festivals that don't have that in their name?
That's an excellent question, and it's actually something I'm a little bit, I don't know, focused in on. There are a lot of festivals that put international in their name and don't really lean into it very much. The Wyoming International Film Festival goes out of its way to make sure a significant amount of our programming does come from international countries. We want to show stories from all over the world. We genuinely feel that film is ubiquitous. It is a universal language that people from literally every single culture, every single background can enjoy. And moreover, Wyoming doesn't really have a big international flair to it, right? It's a very cowboy, state. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most geographically centered parts of you'd have to travel quite a distance in any direction in order to reach international areas.
It's literally a double landlocked state. It's landlocked and all the states around it are landlocked. But you would be surprised. Wyoming audiences actually do kind of crave stories from far-flung places, and they do crave some kind of entertainment and texture from various cultures, languages, so on and so forth. So we have found that at the Wyoming International Film Festival, when we screen international films, we actually get an incredibly good reaction from our audience. So it's something that we want to do. And then furthermore, I also believe if you're going to call yourself international, you have to represent that. So we specifically set aside a large portion of our screening space to be international films. On top of that, I had the privilege last year of traveling to Ferizaj, Kosovo. Kosovo is a small country in southeastern Europe. Like if you know where Greece is, if you head north a ways, you'll find Kosovo.
I know where Kosovo is.
Yeah, not everybody does. Not everybody.
Yeah,
does.
No, I mean fair enough. Fair enough.
You get into the Balkans countries and people are like, I don't know, one of them's Croatia, I guess. I think I've heard of Albania before. And I got to travel to Ferizaj, Kosovo, and I was a jury member at a festival there. It's called Fair Film. And that was an incredible experience because I got to see a little bit of the behind the scenes of how a European festival is run. And I got to see how they program their slate. And when you're in Europe, and particularly a small country like that, it's a lot easier to bring in quote unquote international films because an international border is literally an hour and a half drive in every single direction. So I want to apply a lot of the lessons I learned there in Ferizaj and apply them to the Wyoming International Film Festival in Cheyenne.
Okay. Could you give some specific examples of the things you learned?
Well, it's how they program their film festival. There's obviously not a lot of local films being made in Kosovo, so they almost entirely rely on international programming.
Okay.
But I realize Kosovo is a very young country. It's only come about in the last 20 years, and there's, without getting into geopolitics, let's just say there are a lot of countries that don't even recognize Kosovo as a country.
Yeah.
And one of those countries is Spain. Spain does not recognize Kosovo as a country. And I was surprised Yeah, I mean, I figured Spain is part of NATO, they probably would, but
Yeah,
no.
right.
Um, so I was surprised to learn that Fair Film brought in a ton of Spanish filmmakers, and there was a huge presence of Spanish filmmakers at the film festival. And
Interesting.
by doing that, what they're essentially doing is inviting people into their country, showing them their film festival, their culture, their customs, so on and so forth, with the hope of they will go back to Spain and then vote in a way that would eventually culminate in Spain recognizing Kosovo as a country. So, in that regard, a film festival is more than just a fun event to go watch movies and meet filmmakers. It can actually help influence the politics of a region.
Yeah, it's a cultural diplomacy.
It is. It is. And it's something, Wyoming does not have a tax incentive for film production, but
Hmm.
Montana does. We lose so much production to Montana. But now
Oh.
that I'm running the film festival, I have joined with a group of other people in Wyoming to try and advocate for a tax incentive program for the state. That's a lot harder to do when you're just like, "Hi, I'm Rudy. I'm some random guy." When you get to introduce yourself as, "I'm Rudy. I'm the executive director of the state film festival," politicians want to take you a little bit more seriously.
Okay. Are you affiliated with the state government in any way, or
No,
you just use the name Wyoming?
no, we are not affiliated with the state government. We do talk with the state government, the tourism board, quite a lot. We don't get any money or financing from them, but we do get a lot of support in other ways. Usually it's just, the tourism board advertising us saying, "Hey, here's another thing you can do in Wyoming." But no, we are not affiliated with the state.
Okay. Um, yeah, so in your Reddit post, you divide film festivals up into four categories, which are AAA film festivals, which are the ones that even the most casual film fan has heard of, like Sundance and Cannes and Tribeca, etc. Uh, qualifying film festivals, which are ones where if your film screens there, then you qualify for the big famous awards like Oscars and BAFTAs, etc. Which I
Mhm.
assume there's a fair bit of overlap between those two categories.
Well,
Um,
definitely. Everything that would be a category one would also be a category two.
okay,
But in the category one festivals, there's only like six or seven in the entire world that we put in
yeah,
that category.
okay. And then category three is large regional festivals like the Wyoming International Film
Yeah.
Festival, and I assume that would also include things like Telluride,
Yes.
maybe South.
Telluride, Boulder would be another one. Denver. Is Denver an awards qualifying festival? I'd have to look that
I'm
up.
not sure. Um, and then the fourth category, my favorite category, is everything else, which includes all of the really specific genre film festivals, which is what I'm a big fan of. So things like 6 Feet Under, Nevermore, maybe the Telluride Horror Film Fest, or is
Yeah,
that a big enough
Telluride
name
for
that?
yeah.
Okay. Um, so I am currently organizing two category four film festivals. New Fears Day is a holiday and winter themed horror film festival, and Slime Fest is a gore and gross out themed summer horror film festival. Um, so how similar and how different would you say the coordination is for those category three and category four film festivals?
Oh, I would say it's absolutely similar. Because with category three and category four film festivals, you're focused so much on a local presence in particular. In terms of organization, obviously, you're going to be going to local sponsors. And I mean, even the big festivals go to local sponsors, but Sundance can get sponsorship from pretty much anybody they want. It's Sundance. Whereas something like my festival or what you're organizing, we're not going to be able to get sponsorship from Deadline or, Hollywood Reporter or something like that. So we have to rely more on local or regional sponsors. Typically, Category 3 and Category 4 festivals have a strong local film presence. Uh, that's for two reasons. One, yes, you want to bring in audience members. That's fine. But two, more than anything, they actually facilitate the growth of local filmmakers better than even your Category 1 or even Category 2 festivals. And that's why I make it a point that anytime that we talk about what categories these festivals are in, it's not saying one is better than the other. It's saying one might help particular filmmakers in certain ways better than others. So for
Yeah.
your festivals that you're organizing, they're genre festivals, they're horror themed, and they're predominantly aimed at filmmakers in your region. I remember earlier you said Colorado filmmakers don't have to pay a submission fee because you're trying
Yes.
to support the Colorado film community.
Yeah,
So in
exactly.
that regard, if I'm a horror filmmaker in Colorado, then your film festival is far more valuable to me than Cannes. Cannes is the biggest film festival on earth, but that's completely useless if I can't even get inside the door, So if I'm
Yeah.
a Colorado horror filmmaker, your festival, a Category 4 festival, is far more valuable than a Category 1 festival.
Yeah, Can in particular is one that's really interesting to me because have you seen the documentary All the Love You Can?
No, everybody says I need to watch. I really feel like I'm not doing my due diligence as a festival director. People point at this one all the time.
I mean it's only an hour and a half long and it flies by. But the long and short of it is that it's made by Lloyd Kaufman and the Troma team, and it's about them attempting to screen their stuff at Cannes,
Mhm.
and use it as a useful marketing thing, despite what they produce being so different from what Cannes is interested in.
Yeah.
It's really entertaining and really interesting. And I agree that, like, unless you're in the position where you can make a spectacle out of the fact that you didn't get in, Can is not really going to be useful for most, like, really small, especially genre filmmakers. And so it's interesting that you mentioned sponsors, because, like, this is the first year that I'm trying to put together any of this. I'm deliberately not biting off more than I can chew. I'm not aiming to be huge or anything like that. So I'm not really sure what I would do with, like, if I had any sponsors. I haven't attempted to get any sponsors. I've got, a local business that has a screening room, is donating the use of the screening room for the festivals. But other than that, I'm not sure I'll even have any expenses. So, like, as you grow from this very, very small thing to something a fair bit larger, like the Wyoming International Film Festival, what sort of things do you actually end up spending money on?
Oh man, I feel like half my job is just writing checks. So part of our festival in the way that I have started running it since I took over the position. I did not start the Wyoming International Film Festival. I came in its 8th year. So
And
one
how
of the
many
things
years has it been running now?
it's going to be 10 years in this next season. So we
Okay,
just had our ninth.
so this is your third year.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This is my 3rd year as the executive director of the film festival. It was previously run by a gentleman named Alan O'Ashey, and Alan's retired. I think he's in his 60s or maybe even 70s. I'm not entirely sure. But as he put it, in his words, running live events is a young man's game. So Alan kind of gave me the keys to the castle and wished me luck. Um, But one of the things that I want to do with the festival is make it a large celebration of the arts, not just film.
Okay.
So some of the things that we have added to the film festival since I've taken it over, we've added a ceramics show. So we have all this incredible pottery that we put on display. We have a photography exhibition. So we bring in local photographers and give them a space to set up their work. And both of those are free to the public. So
Oh,
even if
cool.
you don't have a ticket to the film festival, you can still come down and you can still check out the artwork. Um, we last year had our first dance performance at the festival, which we have now expanded into an entire branch of the film festival we call the Wyoming Dance Film Fest. And that incorporated dance film and live dance, live performance on the stage. And we also did
Interesting.
that for free for the general public as well. So to put those things on costs money, but we're also not charging tickets for those things. So we
Right.
don't
Okay.
offset them with the ticket, so we do that with sponsorship. Some of the other things that we did for the filmmakers last year, we took them on a tour of a bison ranch. So there's the Terry Bison Ranch in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and they have this cool like train that goes through the pastures where the bison are, and you can actually feed bison. So we took all the filmmakers, which was about like 50 some odd filmmakers, and took them on a train ride. So, those are the kinds of things that we end up spending money on. But the reason we like doing that is because it gives a much more rounded experience of coming to Wyoming than just dropping into a theater and watching films. We want people to have an
Ah,
authentic Western experience.
okay. So you're doing more of that sort of cultural diplomacy
Yeah.
thing of like, it's not just, hey, come watch a movie that you could in theory watch anywhere. It's, hey, come watch a movie in this specific setting.
Yes.
Okay,
And
okay.
we have so many ideas of other things that we want to bring on board. We want to do tours of the Wyoming State Museum for our filmmakers when they join us. There has been talk of doing a show with the Cheyenne gunslingers. So it's guys who dress up like cowboys and they do tricks with guns and they do like a little mock shootout. So we
Wow.
haven't added these things yet, but it's all part of our conversation of putting on a bigger show.
All right. Yeah, really leaning into the Wyoming part of the Wyoming International Film Festival. Yeah, that's interesting. And when I'm interviewing somebody about a movie that they've made, I always have so many questions because like this is my first time interviewing somebody about a film festival, so I don't have like a default flow yet.
Well,
Uh,
I could talk a little bit about our programming,
yeah, please do.
because that always seems to be something that filmmakers really want to know a lot more about, and a lot of festivals kind of play their cards pretty close to the chest. So, um, on the Reddit post that you mentioned, we actually talked about our programming process, and
A series of
we
Reddit posts, which is why I like I've read the first two, but not the third and fourth. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's the third one where we talk about our programming process, but effectively, we showed pictures of what our judging forms look like, and then we added a lot of commentary on how we judge films and what that process looks like, and then we actually published a bunch of our numbers, which, as a filmmaker myself, I don't think I've ever found a film festival that actually published their numbers in detail like we did. Um,
So what do you mean by the numbers?
so we publish stuff like how many films we programmed based on running time, which is a big question filmmakers always have, because filmmakers always say, what's the ideal length for a short film? There's this pervasive idea that shorter is better.
Hmm.
I disagree with a caveat to that. I think it's not about the runtime of a film. It's about how concise and to the point the story is. And what I mean by that is a lot of films meander. A lot of films have uh, a bunch of air or a bunch of fat that needs to be trimmed out of the film. And this is something that I see even in like major motion pictures. And maybe it's because I'm a professional editor, like that's what I do. That's my day job is I'm an editor, so I'm always thinking about where can I cut. Um, but filmmakers kind of have this idea that if they make a film that's between 10 and 15 minutes, it's going to get into film festivals. And if it's anything over 15 minutes, it's not going to go anywhere. That's that's only kind of true. Because if I have a 15-minute film and I have 3 5-minute films, they're sucking up the exact same amount of space. And so some film festivals will go for the shorter films because they think the shorter films, the more filmmakers, the more people I'm going to have in attendance, the more money I can make. At WYOIFF, that's not how we look at things. We look at it is this story good? Yes? No? Great. If it's a yes, we try and put it in. Doesn't matter if it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 30 minutes. If we enjoy the story, we put it in. But here's the trick. A lot of filmmakers, when they make longer films, there's so much of it that could be cut out, it diminishes the quality of the story. And so that's why we don't necessarily say shorter is better. We say concise is better. We say concise is king, is what it is.
Okay.
Our winning short film last year had a runtime of 30 minutes.
Okay.
It was phenomenal. All 30 minutes, you were on the edge of your seat. You were captivated by that film. But I guarantee you, at some point in time, there was a rough cut of that film that was probably 40 minutes long. So they made the
Ah.
story as concise as possible. And that story, concise equaled 30 minutes. And they ended up winning a trophy. So there you go.
Yeah. My own most recent short, the first cut of it was 7 minutes long, and then the final cut of it was 4 minutes long. Just all sorts of little trimming things down. Yeah, I agree that a tightly edited film is a much more enjoyable experience. So what do you consider the upper limit on what makes something a short film? Because 30 minutes really seems to be pushing it, in my opinion.
So our rules officially say 25 minutes is the cap. We will make exceptions to that rule if we deem the film is good enough for it. We kind of look at everything as it comes in individually. We're not we do play a little fast and loose with our runtime, to be quite honest. Some filmmakers like that, other filmmakers don't. They might say that's unfair if you're not applying the rules equally. Which I can see a point for that, but I would counter that with, but if it's good art, then who cares? Like art should not be contained within a box, you know?
Okay.
So we look at anything that's under 30 minutes as a short film, and we look at anything that's over 40 minutes as a feature. So we have this weird 30 to 40 minute gap, that 10 minutes there, where that's kind of a no man's land that we don't really touch very much unless it's specifically a Wyoming film.
Okay.
I think the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences defines anything under 40 minutes as a short film and anything over 40 as a feature. So every festival has their own different interpretation of that. Some festivals put limits at 15 minutes or 20 minutes or something like that. It depends on every festival. So it's why before you submit to a festival, you really should be reading their rules, because every single one is different and every single one is asking for different things.
So let's talk about the payment structure of film festivals. So a lot of people who are not filmmakers or have never submitted to a film festival don't know like how the money flows around, and frequently make incorrect guesses about this. But the general way that it works is, if you're a filmmaker, you make a movie, you submit it to a film festival, you pay the festival to take a look at it, and then the festival keeps that money whether or not they accept your film. And then when the festival plays the film, they charge money to the public to come watch the film, and generally the festival does not end up paying the filmmaker any of that. There are exceptions to that, but they're the exceptions, not the rule. So I know that, like, before I got involved in any of this, that is not what I would have guessed would have been the payment structure for any of this. Do you know how that became standardized? Why that is the way that things work?
I mean, simply, it's a matter of survival. Um, so I can't speak to all film festivals. I can only speak to us. We run on a bare bones budget. Our sponsorship accounts for most of our financing, but it does not account for all of it. The gap there comes from submission fees from filmmakers. So when you submit to a film festival, depending on when you submit, what deadline, the price goes up. So we
Yeah.
have a discount week. So literally the very first week we are open, all films are like $15 to submit, which is very, very cheap for the United States. We'll talk about Europe here in a second. So for the United States, $15 is pretty cheap. And then after that, then it goes up. So we just finished our early bird deadline. We're in our fall deadline now. So for a short film for a fall deadline, it's like $30 or just a little bit under $30 is what it is off the top of my head. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. I can actually look.
Yeah.
It's $28. Wow, I was pretty close. So it's $28 right now to submit a short film to the Wyoming International Film Festival. And what happens is that money goes into an account. And that account is held, the way that we have it set up with Film Freeway is we don't take it out monthly. We wait until the very end. So it's kind of like held in escrow, if you will, by Film Freeway. And then once our submissions are done, Film Freeway sends us the money. One of the reasons that filmmakers get upset with film festivals is they spend a ton of money submitting to film festivals. They get a lot of rejections, and they see it as just a big waste of money, which is one of the reasons that we always beat the drum. You should be researching festivals in depth before you submit, because just shotgun blasting your film out there to festivals is a great way to lose a lot of money and become very jaded with festivals. But one of the reasons that we've seen filmmakers online say, if you get rejected from a film festival, you should get your money back. And while that's a great idea in principle, they're completely ignoring the third party there, and that's Film Freeway. Film Freeway, as a company, makes their money off of film festival submissions.
Yeah.
They are not going to give it back.
Yeah.
Once you have given Film Freeway your money, they are not going to give it back. So when you submit to the Wyoming International Film Festival or any other film festival, you aren't necessarily paying us directly. You're actually paying Film Freeway. Film Freeway then takes a fee out of that and then hands us the rest. So that's how they make their money. They are not going to give that money back at all, because their business model is get thousands of festivals to get a ton of submission fees from filmmakers, and then that's how they make their money. They're the middleman, right?
Yeah.
It's a genius business model. It truly is. But what it does is it also limits the scope of what we can do to refund filmmakers. So we kind of can't. The second part of that is ticket sales, like you were saying. We barely make any money on ticket sales. We hardly make any money on ticket sales because we give out so many free passes to our sponsors. So when our sponsors sponsor us, we don't just give them a couple of tickets. We give them like 400 or 500 tickets.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of people who have festival passes to WYOIFF that didn't pay a penny for it. They got it from some connection with the sponsorship, which is fine. We would actually prefer that because it's more people watching films and engaging with the filmmakers and a larger audience rather than having a barrier to entry, which is a ticket that people often kind of don't value very much, unfortunately. An all-access pass at our film festival is $50. Name me somewhere else that you could get into a 5-day event and see tons of movies and go see a bunch of art and go to parties for $50. You can't.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No.
that's
5
unheard of.
days. That's a long time.
It is. But yet, for some reason, like if I was charging you only $50 to get into Disneyland, you would say that's a steal. But when I charge you $50 to watch 5 days of indie movies, people, yeah, I don't know if that's worth it. And I'm like, are you kidding me, man? Like, you'll go see a major Hollywood film at the movie theaters and you'll pay $20 for a ticket there, but you won't see 5 days of movies for 50. So it's also that psychological thing that's going to change over time as people become more accustomed to the idea of an independent film festival in their backyard.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what percentage of the available programming the average person goes to, like what the sort of distribution of that is. Do you track like how many people are in the audience for each film or anything like that?
So in that regard, we're a little bit at an advantage because we screen at Laramie County Community College. And the college itself tracks the number of people coming in and out. So we don't. They do.
Okay.
Last year, I think we had something like 1,200 people in attendance is what the official number was.
All right.
Personally, and I will publicly say this, I have no problem saying this, I think that's a little high. I think it
Okay.
was less,
Okay.
but whatever, that's the official number that we got was 1,200. I don't have any data on how many films the average person sees. There are absolutely blocks where people come in just for that one block. Our horror films are a very popular block. So
Yeah.
good for you. You're running 2 horror events, right? It brings in a lot of people. Okay, so we get a lot of people for our horror film block. That one always tends to be pretty full. We have other blocks like, well, we had a block about mental health. That was not very well attended, you know?
Okay.
Or we'll have a feature film that's in a foreign language. Last year we had 2 feature films in foreign languages. Those don't tend to bring in that many people. But I will absolutely screen a film to a sparse audience and quote unquote lose money on that if I think the art in the film is absolutely valuable and should be screened.
Okay.
So if a film is very good, but I know it's not going to appeal to our audience, we might have a conversation where we're like, you know what, we'll take the hit because that film deserves to be screened, even if it's not going to be super popular with our audience. But good management of a film festival would say we need to counter that with something that is going to be very popular with an audience, you know? So it's about finding that balance when we program films.
Right. Although I can't imagine that it's that expensive to use the space at a community college.
It's very expensive. It's our biggest expense.
Really? Oh, wow.
It's hands down our biggest expense. It is very expensive.
Huh. Can you give
Yeah.
me a ballpark estimate of are we talking like 3-digit number every day, 5-digit number?
Well, last year it was $9,000 to rent the space.
For the
This
entire
year,
5 days?
well, it was 4 days last year. We're expanding it to 5 days this year.
Okay.
So that means it's going to be more expensive this year.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is part of my job to negotiate that. But yeah, I
Right.
mean, you're looking at a pretty big expense in order to get the space.
That is pretty big.
Now, at the risk of sounding like I'm complaining, we get a lot out of it. We don't just get the movie theater. We get all the space that we can do our art programs. We have the space that we can do our live dance, which is not something you could do at a movie theater. We get just tons of support from the college. A lot of their staff is there on duty helping us out. Their facilities are beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So we get a lot out of that. So the money goes far, but it's still very expensive to run it.
Interesting. That's, yeah, I'm glad I asked, because that is not what I would have guessed. I would have assumed that especially a community college would be acting directly in the interests of the community in and like already being funded and would have and that would have been cheaper than that is, but that's good to
You
know.
you would think, but actually on that note, so earlier I was saying our submission fee, like the $15 discount, was very cheap for a USA film. And I said, we'll talk about Europe in a second. So I think this is a good time to talk about Europe.
Yeah.
Because you teed that up rather nicely. Why doesn't the community college support us, financially or something like that?
Yeah.
And the answer is far bigger than the community college. The answer is the United States. In Europe, and Europe is a conglomeration of many different countries, so I also don't want to paint with too broad of a brush. Some countries do things very differently than others, but there is a general idea in Europe that art like this is supported by the state. So a lot of
Yes.
European festivals, a lot of European art events like this usually get some degree of financing from the state. And because of that, they're able to keep their submission fees low. They're able to do nice things like fly their filmmakers out, put them up in hotels, things that are financially impossible for us because of the cost.
Right.
European festivals have an easier time doing these sorts of things because they get far more support from the state through grants and scholarships and whatever else that they do. So European festivals tend to be a lot cheaper to submit to. They tend to be a lot bigger because they're able to financially do more. And so it's a very different market over in Europe versus the United States. And because of that, when European filmmakers submit to festivals in the United States, there's always a little bit of sticker shock. There's always oh my God, why would I pay 40, 50 bucks to submit a film to a festival when I could pay 5 or 10 euros to submit to a festival down the street,
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I was talking with the director of Dawn Breaks Behind the Eyes a while ago, which is a German film, and
Mm.
yeah, the whole process is very different, and like you were saying, artistic endeavors are much more supported by the governments in Europe than in America, which is it's really interesting to me how that is both the case, and also like the American film industry, especially mainstream film as contrasted with independent cinema, is so much more economically powerful than European film is.
Well, I mean, we've exported our culture literally across the entire world, so there's a huge advantage there. But it is something interesting because there is, as you said, a contrast between the Hollywood studio system and the American indie film scene, and how
Yes.
those two things are supported, not just economically, but also politically. I mean, Hollywood has a lot of advantages politically that indie filmmakers just don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And things that occur to me off the top of my head, if you're doing a huge budget action film, you might be able to get to use a lot of military hardware for free, but the military wants to have a pass at your film and make sure you're not displaying them in a bad light. And then there's things that are politics in the sense that they're interpersonal jockeying, but not politics in the sense of like literally governmental organizations,
You
where like two different movies that are very similar in terms of like nudity and violence, but one of them is made by Paramount and one of them is made by some guy in his backyard, are going to be treated very differently by the MPAA.
Well, I mean, in that regard, it's funny because whenever I work with the interns at work or whatever, I actually have a whole lesson on the MPA because, I got my start in movie trailers, and obviously the
Oh,
MPA
okay.
has a pretty big influence over movie trailers.
Yeah.
Um, and so one of the things I always say is, the MPA was created by the studios. It's
Yeah.
not a government entity. It's a private entity that was created by the studio. So of course they're going to favor studios.
Yeah.
That's who created them. So of course they're going to be a lot stricter on indie films and everything. It's not fair, but nothing in life ever is. So it's just one of those things you got to learn how to navigate. Culturally, in the United States, violence tends to be a lot more culturally acceptable than nudity or sexuality, which, you go to Europe, it's completely flipped. So, violence tends to get more of a pass in this country than sexuality or nudity on screen. And I actually don't blame the MPA for that. I actually think that's just a symptom of a larger cultural perspective here in the United States.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, and you're absolutely right about it. The MPAA being created by the studios. I would say there's a bit of a government impetus for that. A lot of
Oh yeah,
sort of self-censorship boards like the MPAA or the Comics Code Authority
yeah.
were created by industry as sort of a preventative measure to s- preempt there being a governmental censorship board the way that there is in like Britain. Um, and the video nasties we still got to see here in America, even if they were rated R or X.
Well, and when it comes to censorship like that, I'm always going to be on the side of the artists. So I'm glad that we have kind of self-censorship rather than a governmental board.
Yeah.
I have seen quite a number of Hindi language films, Bollywood films, right?
Yes.
And they all have a certificate at the very beginning. They literally put it up on the screen. They're licensed to have the film. And without sitting here and criticizing other cultures and everything, the idea of the government approving what I can and cannot put in a film just like rubs me to my core, man. Like that's definitely, I am very much an American. I'm very much like, you don't get to dictate what I can and cannot say,
I was going to
so.
say yes. It's a very American attitude.
Yeah. So I'd rather take the indie film approach of like it's not rated, and because of that, have to navigate how my distribution is going to work rather than go through any kind of government approval process. And I'm pretty sure if you ask any filmmaker, they're going to land on that side too. We'll
Yeah.
take the bad because the good is so good. So
Yeah. Yeah. So in your Reddit threads, you've written up a bunch of sort of advice that on like what sort of things you should do in order to make your film appropriately matched with film festivals
yeah.
and things like that. And anybody interesting, you can read, anybody who is interested in reading that, you can find it reddit.com/user/Wyoming Film Festival. Um, I'm curious, what advice would you give to people who are coordinating film festivals?
Well, the advice I would give to film festival coordinators is one, have your goals already thought out. Know what your mission is. The reason a lot of filmmakers get burned by festivals is there are a lot of scam festivals out there.
Yes.
And as unfortunate as that is, more so than even scam festivals, there are a lot of rudderless film festivals. There are a lot of film festivals that don't know what they want to be or what they want to do. They just know, I like movies, I want to screen them, and that's it. They don't really have a goal or a mission or anything like that. So, for instance, you are doing two different genre-based festivals. You have different themes for each of those, right?
Yeah.
So already right out of the gate, you know exactly what you're looking for. You know exactly what you're aiming at. You're not just like hoping some films come in and you're going to throw it together and hope people like it or whatever. You have a very specific goal in mind. And then on top of that, because you're making it more accessible for Colorado filmmakers, your goal, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it would seem that your goal is to build up the Colorado film community.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanna contribute in that regard.
So if I were to give advice to any festival directors, I would say, do what you're doing. Have a very specific slate of films in mind for what you want. Have very specific goals of how that fits into the broader market of film festivals. Are you going to be a local film festival that only supports local filmmakers? Are you going to be an event kind of like mine where I'm trying to bring in festivals from all over the world so my audience has a lot of different flavors? Is it somewhere in the middle? Are you trying to be a market where distributors and sales reps and so on and so forth come and they do all the wheeling and dealing that happens at film markets? Are you trying to be an awards qualifying festival? Whatever it is that a festival director is trying to set up with their film festival, I would say you need to be very specific. In one of the Reddit posts, we said, as you're submitting to film festivals, be a laser pointer, not a disco ball. Which means be very specific and be very pointed at what you are trying to achieve rather than just kind of shooting it out there and everywhere. I would say the same goes for festival directors. Don't just start a festival because you like movies and want to screen some. Start a festival for a specific goal. So if your goal is to play horror films and build up the Colorado film community, boom, you're good. You're already right out of the gate. You're already doing a great job because you know exactly what you're aiming for. You know exactly what types of filmmakers you're going for. Then the next thing I would say is partnerships. Partnerships is valuable in every single industry ever because humans are communal animals.
Right.
And because of that, I would say partnerships become extremely valuable to film festivals. So for genre-specific festivals like you, I would say you need to be trying to forge partnerships with any kind of media that is horror focused, like
Okay.
in any kind of reviewers or any kind of horror sites or anything that does any kind of horror specific film reviews or promotions or anything like that. If you can build a partnership with them and you almost make that, they'll never do it exclusive with one festival, but if you build that partnership up, then not only are you going to get the advantage of any kind of promotion that they would have, but you're also going to bring a lot of legitimacy to
Okay.
an event. So for the Wyoming International Film Festival, we have two very important partnerships. We have the Alliance of Women Directors, which is an organization for female and women-driven film, specifically directing, but they also kind of touch in producing and script writing as well. And then we also have the International Documentary Association, and they are exactly what they sound like, an International Association of Documentary Filmmakers. So we have these two partnerships and we offer discounts to their members in order to help us boost that we have more films by female directors, particularly right now because our senior programming staff is all men. So we're definitely trying to curb that by encouraging more female directors to come in, which is certainly a blind spot for us. And it's one that we are trying to fix, but it is a lot easier said than done.
I believe it.
And then also because we want to bolster our nonfiction wing of the film, we want to have strong documentaries. A lot of film festivals, they'll have like a block of short documentaries, just like one, and it's usually just kind of like tossed in the corner or whatever. We usually have 4 or 5. So we have a strong presence of documentary films.
Okay. So So it makes sense to me. It's clear what a partnership with like an organization, a professional development organization like what you just mentioned would be like. What does a partnership with media look like?
Well, again, we don't have one, so I can only speak to when I see other festivals have one. So a great
Okay.
example is the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. I believe they had a partnership with Hollywood Reporter this last year. Um, and they're a huge festival. I mean, they're a Category 2 festival. They're an Academy qualifying festival. Being so close to Los Angeles, they pull a lot of that market as well. And they have a ton of star power. Like Chris Pratt was there last year, you know. So this is not a small fest. This is a big fest. They have a partnership with Hollywood Reporter, which means Hollywood Reporter is there at the festival every single day reporting. You know, this film
Okay.
premiered, that film premiered, this audience loves this. Here's our review of this thing. Here, like full tip to tail coverage of the film festival is what that partnership looks like. And in so doing, it's also acting as a marketing arm for the film festival. When there's so many Hollywood Reporter articles about that film festival coming out, not just one or two, but 10 or 20 or whatever, it's I mean, it kind of acts a little bit like marketing at that point. It
Makes
promotes
it
the
seem
film
like a
festival.
big deal.
Yeah. And what it does is it gives Hollywood Reporter the exclusive scoop. So, you know, if a big star, you know, Benedict Cumberbatch or whatever is there, they can get an interview with him. And now you have an interview with Benedict Cumberbatch, and it's that level of exclusivity that the Hollywood Reporter sees a huge advantage in. So it's always a quid pro quo relationship. Anytime that you make a partnership with
Okay.
someone, it's always about, you know, they are an organization, they want something out of the deal. So it's always about finding, you know, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. How does that look like?
Yeah. So since this would be like a mutually beneficial relationship for the Hollywood Reporter and for the film festival, would you expect there to be money being exchanged in
Oh,
any
definitely.
particular direction?
Yeah, definitely the Hollywood Reporter probably paid Santa Barbara is how
Okay.
I would guess. And
Okay.
again, I don't know. This is entirely an educated guess. So anybody out there, please don't sue me. This is an opinion and only that. Um, I have no way of knowing. I don't run that film festival. I'm not on the inside or anything, so I don't know. But I would assume that the Hollywood Reporter probably pays Santa Barbara International Film Festival. For
Okay.
something more along on our scale at WYOIFF, we had two podcasters there doing interviews for filmmakers last year. There was no money exchanged at all between us and the podcasters. It's literally they get a lot of content for their podcast, and they also get to grow their audience because those filmmakers are obviously going to be sharing their interviews.
Right.
So you multiply that by like 30 or 40 filmmakers or so, and they get a lot of traffic on their podcast. And the advantage I get as a film festival is it feels more quote unquote worth it to show up because you get to go on the tour of the Bison Ranch and there's a live dance performance. And also you can sit down and do a podcast interview and you get to promote your film more, you know. So when you add these things on, it becomes more valuable for a filmmaker to make the effort to attend because let's just be real, we're just talking honestly. Cheyenne, Wyoming is on no one's top 10 destination list. So
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. So, given there are so many different film festivals of all sorts of different scales, are there any kinds of film festivals that you think we as a community need more of?
I mean, I think we need more legitimate festivals and fewer scams. There's been an explosion of scam festivals is
Yeah.
what's happened. So I think we as a community need to Stop being afraid of naming and shaming.
Okay.
I actually see it a lot that filmmakers have a bad experience at a film festival, and they're almost afraid of some kind of retribution if they
Mm.
name that festival and name exactly what happened.
Yeah, I
Now,
find that for small scale artists, being afraid of retribution is a very common thing.
yeah, it's actually somehow festivals, and I say this as a person who runs a festival, somehow we have turned into this like mafia that like if you say
Yeah.
something, we're gonna come for you, you know? I think it's better that we as a community of filmmakers, if we have a bad experience at a film festival, to first off acknowledge whether or not that experience was just because you fell through the cracks or, you know, sometimes things happen and the ball got dropped, or if that festival was a scam and other filmmakers should avoid it. And if that's the case, I think we've got to start saying it out loud. I've seen online and in person where people are like, "Oh yeah, I applied to this festival and you know, they lied about this, they lied about that, you know, they didn't screen the film, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what festival?" And they're like, "Well, I don't want to say." And I'm like, "Why not? Why not? Why
Yeah.
not? Say, please say it." Because here's the
Yeah.
thing. If one person has something negative to say about a film festival, fine. They had a bad experience. I'm certain that there are people who come to my festival and don't like something that we've done. I don't know. You'd have to ask them. Um,
Stepped in bison dung.
yeah, there you go. Like something like, or the audience wasn't what they expected it to be, or whatever. I don't know. The point of the matter is, if you have a bad experience at a festival, you have a bad experience at a festival. If everybody has a bad experience at that festival, it's not a good festival.
Right.
And we need to stop being afraid of saying that out loud.
Yeah. So, I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into what you mean by legitimate and scam festivals, because I know that to me the word scam is pretty straightforward. You are deliberately deceiving people in order to get money from them. Um, Legitimate could cover a wider variety of things.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
this is my first year trying to organize any sort of film festival, and so to me, like, is what I'm doing legitimate? Well, I mean, I'm certainly not deliberately trying to scam anyone, but also I don't really expect to like uh, launch anyone's career or be extremely beneficial to the people whose films that I screen. I don't have the knowledge or the relationships built up yet to really be legitimate the way that, like, you know, a well-established film
Mhm.
festival run by people who have a lot of experience is legitimate. So what do you mean when you use those words?
Well, one of the most common things that we see online, someone will ask a question about a film festival. Where should I submit? And someone will respond and say, "Well, only a few film festivals are worth it. The rest won't do anything for you." And I always kind of giggle at that worth it, worth, because it's such a subjective term. So when those people are saying worth it, what they're saying is like Sundance or Tribeca or something like that, where your career can quote unquote be launched. What they're failing to recognize is every year, when you consider the script writers and the actors and the producers and the directors, and you know, if Tribeca plays 100 films, you're probably looking at more than 1,000 filmmakers that are official selection, right?
Right.
It does not launch the career of 1,000 filmmakers every single year. So in that case, I think there's this skewed idea of what is quote unquote worth it. So when I talk about a legitimate film festival, when we're talking about scams, it's very easy. They're gonna take as much money from you as possible and give absolutely nothing in return, and they're gonna pocket it and they're gonna run away with it. Okay, that's a scam. That's easy. Legitimate is literally any festival that isn't doing that on purpose. It's that
Okay.
simple.
Okay.
So so for a horror filmmaker living in Maine, your festival is not going to be quote unquote worth it, right? For a horror filmmaker living in Pueblo, your festival is absolutely worth it, because your festival is going to put them in the same room as a bunch of other filmmakers in the region. And that's how they meet people. And that's how you launch a career, is meeting people, by
Yeah.
shaking hands, by getting to know people, by networking. That's what it is. So the Wyoming International Film Festival is only worth it for some filmmakers, quote unquote, worth it. But for those filmmakers who it is worth it for, when they come to the festival and they network, they really build connections. I have literally seen films come about because filmmakers met each other at the film festival. They got along. They decided to go make another movie, and now that other movie is also doing the festival circuit. If that's not quote unquote worth it, then I don't know what is, because it literally means a festival led to other projects, right?
Yeah.
You may not be Steven Spielberg, fine. If you're trying to become Steven Spielberg, the Wyoming International Film Festival is not quote unquote worth it for you. In that case, you should only look at Sundance or whatever. And God bless you, because it's got less than a 1% acceptance rate. So
Yeah.
so I think when people want to talk about what is a legitimate film festival, what is quote unquote worth it, I think it's actually a shift in perspective. I think it's on the filmmaker to see what their goal is. If your goal is to become rich and famous, then yeah, pretty much every festival is not worth it. If your goal is to network or grow your audience or get press or travel, then it depends on the festival. So something like mine, you're going to get a lot of networking done. You're going to travel to Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is not a place that most people do, but they find it surprisingly fun when they do. Um, and it's a little bit of a feather in their cap, which might lead to other festival selections. So if that's kind of what your goal is, we are absolutely worth it. If your goal is to land a distribution deal, we do not have sales reps at the festival, in which case
It's
we are
not a
not.
film market.
We're not a film market. So in that case, we are not worth it.
Yeah.
In which case you should go look at other festivals. And by all means, I would say, please submit to other festivals and not us if we are not worth it, because it's just a waste of money. Even if you get in, if you're not getting any advantage out of it, then we're just kind of wasting your money and your time. And that's not our intention at all.
Yeah. So you mentioned like if somebody's a horror filmmaker in Maine submitting to my Pueblo-based film festival, probably not worth it. Which is a shame to me, because I'd love to see what a horror filmmaker in Maine is doing. But
Well, and I'm talking broadly. Maybe they want to come out to Colorado, and maybe they want to network with the people out here. Maybe they have their East Coast connections already solidified, and they want to make more connections out in the West. In that case, it's absolutely worth it. It's
okay.
100% worth it for them to come out.
And how much is it? So it seems like you're saying that to the filmmakers, a huge portion of the value of a film festival is attending it, is dependent on attending it in person. And so how much value do you see in situations where you can't attend in person?
Still valuable, less so. I don't think it's a controversial statement at all to say the biggest value of any film festival, doesn't matter if it's a local film festival, a 48-hour film festival, all the way up to Cannes. I think the biggest value is the connections that you make at the festival, and that's always going to be much easier in attendance. Now, there are other valuable parts of film festivals, in particular, growing your audience and getting feedback from an audience. So I think we underappreciate the value of people sitting in a dark room with their phones off and not being able to look anywhere else and not being able to pause the movie and it's on a big screen. Like, that is more valuable than people give it credit for.
Yeah.
And because of that, you can get incredible feedback. If I can share a personal story.
Absolutely.
I had a feature film on the festival circuit a couple of years ago. I played at one festival, which I was able to attend. And because I played at that festival, there was a scout in the audience for another festival.
Hmm.
And that scout came up to me and said, "Here's a waiver, submit to our festival. We want you to play." That festival was Twin Cities Film Festival. And I
Okay.
had specifically not submitted to Twin Cities Film Festival because I thought to myself, there's no way I'm going to get in. Their quality is way too high. My film is not good enough to get in. There's no way I'm going to get in. So I did not submit to Twin Cities. And lo and behold, a guy from Twin Cities Film Festival scouted my film, watched it, loved it, invited me, and I got to screen in a festival that I thought was unachievable.
Interesting.
So right there, there's a ton of value. Now, granted, I was in attendance, but I'm pretty sure he would have reached out even if I wasn't in attendance. So that's
Okay.
one example. Another example is I got some decent press with film festivals, even ones that I was not able to attend. I still was able to get people in that local market to go and review the film, and I got some pretty good press. And I was able to leverage that press into getting into more festivals and eventually getting a distribution deal. When I have, half a dozen news articles written about the film, and they're more or less speaking about it positively, that's a huge advantage. So attending a film festival should be a filmmaker's priority, but even if you can't, you can get feedback from audience, you can grow your audience, you can get press. You never know who's sitting in the actual theater itself that might reach out to you at a later point. So I still say there is a lot of value even if you cannot attend the festival.
Okay. So what do you think about laurels, awards? Personally, I love getting awards. I imagine everybody does, and I love giving awards. And I've heard a lot of conflicting things. I've heard plenty of people who are like, "Yeah, I love getting awards. Any set of laurels I can stick on my thing is great." And I've heard people say like, "Oh, I only care about awards if they're from an established body where other people care about that award." Uh, and I've heard some people say that if a festival gives out too many awards, it cheapens the festival. So I'm curious to hear your perspective on those things.
It's definitely a nuanced thing. I do feel like if a festival is just passing out awards left and right, then it doesn't really have any significance. If it's a participation award kind of a thing.
I want to hear the rest of your thoughts, but let me interrupt you there because it's not just a participation thing, because being selected for the festival at all is like only a minority of the films that get submitted for a legitimate festival are going to be accepted. So I don't know. Like I see plenty of things that just say like official selection, which is basically an award that just means we got into this festival.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing. I would rather be an official selection at Sundance than an award winner at the Nowheresville Underground After Dark Film Festival. So
Sure.
certain things definitely have more quote unquote value than others. An official selection at a film festival is frankly only as good as the film festival. I'm certain that anybody listening to this podcast would rather be an official selection at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, which is far more significant than the Wyoming International Film Festival. And I don't say that to degrade myself or to cut myself down or belittle the film festival in any way. But the fact of the matter is there's more industry centered at that film festival than there is up in Wyoming. Now, with
Yeah.
that said, that doesn't mean an official selection at my festival has no value. Of course it does. We only accept about 30% of submissions. So that means 70% of people submitting to our festival get rejected, which is a lot. So we do have a degree of exclusivity but not to the degree of something like Santa Barbara International, where their acceptance rate is probably in the low tens. As for awards, again, it kind of depends on the award, the festival, so on and so forth. I have seen a tactic of scam festivals to give out awards to everything. And so not only are you an official selection at the festival, you are also an award winner at the festival. And filmmakers get really excited and they push that and they promote it. And then other filmmakers see it and then they submit to that festival. And that's how the scam kind of keeps going, is they use laurels and awards as a promotional device for their festival.
Okay.
While other film festivals don't even have awards. In Cheyenne, where we run the Wyoming International Film Festival, there is a genre film festival that just played last week. It's called Midnight West Fest. It's fantastic. It's absolutely a must-see event. They don't even do awards at that festival because they just don't want to. You know, I guess you'd have to ask Josh, the guy who runs it, why he chooses not to. But I guess they just don't see any value in giving out awards. So for them specifically, they don't really care about the awards. And for them, it's more of the participating in this genre festival, and it's a whole event. You know, they have like a horror themed burlesque dancer, and they have tarot card readings, and they have like ghost tours, and they have like a metal band play. It's awesome. Like, it's such an event. So for them, the value is being a part of the event. And it's not so much in saying who won an award or not. At WYOIFF, we have 20 awards total, which some people might think that's too many. Some people might say that's diluting the value of the awards because 20 is a lot of awards to give out.
Okay.
I personally disagree. I think we have the correct amount, and I want to leave it right there. I don't want to add or subtract. But at that point, it becomes a matter of perspective and a matter of opinion. So I guess the only question worth asking here, it's philosophical, is when you win an award at a film festival, does it matter? And if it matters to you, then that's all that matters, right? Like if you win an award and it feels good and you have some validation, and maybe you angle that into getting into more festivals, or maybe you angle that into getting your next project, or maybe nothing comes of it and you put your trophy on your shelf and you're proud of yourself. If it's important to you, who cares what anybody else says?
Yeah. It's interesting because I think my perspective on this is different from a lot of people's, in that so I've been running this podcast for about a year and a half or so at this point. And I only interview people whose work I'm actually interested in and like, and you know, for the filmmakers, means I've seen their movie and I enjoyed their movie. And so to me, that is like, they have already proven that they're worth rewarding in some way. And so this on the 1 year anniversary of running this podcast last July, I did the Slimy Awards, because I'm usually interviewing independent
That's
horror
amazing.
filmmakers. Thank you. I made up these little award things, which of course the audience can't see, but I'll describe it. It's a small vial filled with a green glow in the dark slime.
That's amazing.
And with a sticker on it saying the name of the award with the little splat symbol behind it. And I gave one of these awards to almost, not quite, but almost everybody that I interviewed in the past year. And I tailored the awards. Like, I didn't have, like, you know, best film, best actor, things like that. Like the one I'm holding up right now, because I don't have the mailing address to send it to them, is best small town. and I had like best use of slime, best creepy antagonist who pursues our protagonist, things like that. Things that were very tailored to the specific films that I already knew I wanted to reward in some way. And so I'm curious, like, is that perspective, I mean, I'm aware it's not a common one. Do you think that it's like a valid one, or is it like people only care about best actor sort of thing?
I mean, at the end of the day, it becomes a philosophical question of, again, like, what has worth, you know?
Right.
What has value? So that's why, you know, earlier I said when I see someone say, "Oh, only a few film festivals are worth it," I always kind of giggle because I'm like, yeah, but if you can't get into those film festivals, are they actually worth it? You know? So ultimately, anytime that a filmmaker wins an award, you have to ask the filmmaker, was it worth it? It's up to them to decide. Um, as an editor, I've won a bunch of awards because that's what I do. I do a lot of editorial. Um, the biggest award that I have ever won is something a lot of editors would like to win, and it's done great. You know, when I'm looking for a job, I can put it on a resume and say, you know, I've won a Golden Clio, which is kind of a big deal ish for editors. Um, but funnily enough, the award that I've wanted to win my entire career that I have seen so many other editors win, but I have not, is a Golden Trailer Award.
Ah.
And so for me, that's my white whale. That's the one that I want the most. And it's kind of funny because Clios are very well respected in the industry, and I've won a couple of them. But for me, I'm like, yeah, it's a Clio. I really want the Golden Trailer. That's the one that I want. So at the end of the day, it depends on what you consider valuable. So if a filmmaker gets a Slimy and that makes their day, and now they get to call themselves an award-winning filmmaker, then who are we to say, doesn't mean anything? Who are we to
Okay.
say that, you know?
Yeah. Um, so that's prompted a completely unrelated question in me. What is it that makes for a good trailer in your view?
Oh man. You would think after 10 years of doing this, I'd have a better answer. Um, a good trailer, a trailer is a commercial. That's what it is. All
Right.
right. So a good trailer is the one that sells you on the movie. That's it. It's the one that convinces you to buy a ticket to go see the film. That is a good trailer. Now, there are a lot of commonalities of good trailers. A a good sense of rhythm, a good soundtrack, good editorial that uses that soundtrack and cuts against it or with it, utilizing sound effects effectively throughout a trailer. Structure, trailers are no different than films. There's a first act, a second act, a third act. All of these things are quote unquote good trailers. But at the end of the day, there are plenty of trailers that have all of these devices that have this form, this function, so on and so forth. But they don't convince audiences to go see the movie. So at the end of the day, they're not a good trailer. They didn't do their job. So any trailer that is a good trailer is the one that convinces you to go open up your wallet, pull some money out, and buy a movie ticket.
Okay. Well, so I might dispute that a little because um to give an example of a recent film, Cobweb. Have you
Mhm.
seen Cobweb?
I have not. No,
Okay, have you seen the trailer for Cobweb?
I have not.
Okay. Well, so I watched the trailer for Cobweb, and I the trailer features, like spooky music, spooky shots that are in the movie, and like uh, a lot of little moments that are like uh, the kids looking around, beat, 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 jump scare, and like oh, creepy looking lady runs towards the camera and stuff. And these are things that are I think very sort of broad appeal, lowest common denominator horror things. And so for
Yeah.
me, when I watched it, I was like, oh, it's another generic jump scare movie. I'm not very interested. But I would expect it to have a successful broad appeal. However, in the movie itself, those scenes are very different than they're portrayed in the trailer. Like that beat, beat, beat jump scare is not in the film. In the film, it's beat, beat, it carries out a long way, and then there is no jump scare. That was a different scene that they put adjacent there to make you think that it was like that. And the bit with like scary
Damn
lady
trailer editors.
yeah, the bit with like scary lady rushes at the camera makes you think that there's scary lady. That's in the actual movie, that's a 20-second long nightmare that the kid has. That's not actually a character in the film, and the specific framing of it is actually much creepier in the film, where they give that like time to breathe a little, as opposed to like the 3-second bit that they put in the trailer. And so the tension here that I'm trying to point at is between a film that is, or a trailer that is convincing broad mass market appeal versus accurately portraying what you are going to get when you actually go and see the movie.
So here's a little insider bit from the trailer industry. The marketing team does not give a damn about accuracy. They don't care. The marketing team usually is just, like you said, least common denominator. Go for the thing that we know is effective. Go for the thing that we know that works. There's hardly any ingenuity or any inspiration coming from that. When trailer editors do something, they're creative people. They tend to really amp up a lot of the creativity. That rarely ever gets past the first round with the marketing team. It's usually dialed back quite a lot.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, we also like you're using Cobweb specifically. And it's funny you bring that one up because I've cut a bunch of stuff for Lionsgate.
And by the way, for anyone listening, when I saw the trailer, I thought, oh, Cobweb, generic jump scare movie. But then I actually watched Cobweb, and I really enjoyed it. There's some really great tension and atmosphere building in it.
But we also don't know what like the budget for the trailer was, what the timeline was. So it could have literally landed on some marketing director's desk or some like VP of the marketing, and it's just like, it's a horror movie, just make it look like any other horror movie. Here's a limited budget, and then that's that.
Yeah.
We also don't know how many rounds it went through of notes and editorial and so on and so forth. I don't even know what trailer house did it. So that's the other thing. Every trailer house has their own particular style.
Okay.
So after a while, once you see a bunch of trailers from a particular trailer house, you will start to notice their style and their devices and what they kind of lean into one way or the other.
Yeah. Unfortunately, whether it was because of deliberate decisions or incompetence or just bad luck, I think that the marketing for Cobweb really dropped the ball, in that it is a horror movie set on Halloween that was released the same day as Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Oof.
And so it did not do well in theaters.
Why would they release it in the middle of summer?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, why would they release it in the middle of summer? Second of all, why on the biggest premiere day for film for these two very famous, very talked about films? The only thing I can think of was that they were trying to do that I forget the term, but the counter programming, where they're like, oh, people who like horror movies don't necessarily like Barbie or Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll go see our thing while everybody else goes see those other things. But if whether or not that was what they were going for, it did not work.
Well, I mean
Um,
that actually does bring us to a larger conversation. It's something that indie filmmakers should be aware of, and we wrote about this in one of the Reddit posts. I think it was in the post number 4, I think is what it was.
okay.
Um, and that's your film does not exist in a vacuum.
Hmm.
You know, there are so many external factors that will impact the success of your movie that are way beyond your control. And that goes for film festivals, that goes for studio films, that goes everywhere. It's funny you bring up the Barbie Oppenheimer thing because we specifically called that out in the post. We said, you know, the producers of those two films probably never in a million years thought it would be a widespread global internet meme of go double feature these movies, you know?
Yeah.
That's way beyond their control. That's way beyond something that they can wrangle. And they benefited from it. Absolutely. You got more people in the theater because of the Barbenheimer double feature, right? Than you would have had they come out individually. And so
Yeah.
they benefited in a positive way, but then Cobweb comes out the exact same time, and you know they're up against Barbenheimer, and they're being released in the middle of summer. It's like the director of Cobweb is probably pulling his hair out somewhere. You know, the producers are probably super mad because the studio made a bad choice. But
Yeah.
that's way beyond their control. So it's not any kind of reflection of the quality of the film itself. I haven't seen the film, but I'll trust you. It's a good film. Um, but that's way beyond the control of the director. And that's something that impacts indie films just like it impacts studio films. So when you submit to a film festival, you have no idea what else the festival is looking at. You have no idea. If I get 20 short Western films, I'm going to want to put together a block of short Westerns, right? Because I have a ton to draw from.
Right.
If I only get one, well, I'm not going to put together a block of just one film. So that one might just not even get in, even if it's
Hmm.
good. Or maybe I find a different home for it in like a drama block or something. And maybe at that particular day, the dramas aren't doing so hot. Maybe people are more interested in seeing comedy. So, you know, even if you do get in, maybe you don't get a great audience, you know, whatever. There are
Okay.
so many external factors in filmmaking, both on a studio level and on an independent level, all the way from film festivals to wide releases that impact your film that it's out of your control. You can't control people on the internet deciding Barbenheimer is going to be a meme. Just like you can't control, oh no, Cobweb got released the same day.
Yeah. Yeah. A question that I usually like to end with when I'm interviewing filmmakers is asking them about where do you see the future of independent film going? So I'd like to
Hmm,
ask you that, and I would also like to ask where do you see the the future of film festivals as going?
that's an excellent question. We are actually writing our Reddit post on that coming up. We haven't posted it yet. We've
Although
only
by the time
posted.
this episode airs, it will surely have been posted.
Well, there you go. All right, go check out part 6, which is going to be called "Today's Trends and Tomorrow's Festivals." Um, the future of film festivals is actually quite exciting. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't 100% predict the future. But you are seeing a lot more integration of things like AR and VR and stuff like that
Oh
at film
wow,
festivals. You are starting to
that is
see a
not
lot
something I
more.
would have guessed.
Yeah, like some festivals are doing a lot of immersive stuff like AR. You're also seeing like video games starting to like pop up at film festivals here and there. Almost
Interesting.
almost like it's kind of put into a corner off to the side, but there's a lot of crossover between video game storytelling and in
Film.
like just film and storytelling in general. Um, you're going to see a lot more hybrid events, which is something I just hate. I'm an old man yelling at clouds here, but the writing's on the wall. Hybrid events are here to stay.
And by hybrid,
And
you mean people not only go see it in person, they people who are out of state can stream it online.
correct. So uh, it used to be if you wanted to attend the film festival, you got on a plane, you rented a car or whatever, got your hotel room, blah, blah, blah. Now you're seeing a lot more online presence with film festivals. You're seeing a lot more online screenings. These are usually behind some kind of a secure hosting site. So you log in with a particular password and it's only available for, a couple of hours or whatever before it goes offline.
Right.
And these hybrid events are conducive to filmmakers who can't travel. They're also conducive to getting more distributors or sales reps or whatever at the film festival, because a sales rep is never going to get on a plane from LAX and come to Wyoming. It's just the fact of life. They're
Right.
always going to say, email me a link. I'll take a look. But with a hybrid event, they can quote unquote participate during the festival from the comfort of their office.
Yeah.
Personally, I like I said, I'm an old man yelling at clouds. I don't like the idea of hybrid event. I think there's far more value in face-to-face conversations with people. However, the writing's on the wall. It's one of those adapt or die situations.
Yeah. I mean, hey,
Um,
we're not doing this interview in person.
yeah, exactly. We're right now 1,000 miles away from each other right now. The other thing I see in the future of film festivals is development programs. Now, this has kind of always been a thing. Sundance has like the Sundance Institute where they would like develop filmmakers. I'm like 90% sure that's how Tarantino really launched his career, is through that. But I think you're going to start seeing that on a smaller scale with festivals in the category 2 and category 3. And the reason that is it kind of assures the security of a film festival. If they can latch on to a couple of quote unquote local filmmakers and kind of help them develop their careers, and those filmmakers have any degree of success, one, it's good marketing for the film festival. And two, it brings a lot of legitimacy to that festival that they can then apply to the rest of their filmmakers.
So what sort of things would people be doing? I mean, aside from making connections, like you mentioned earlier, with other filmmakers, what sort of developmental things do you want to see film festivals doing?
Well, I mean, in my wildest dreams, I would love to do it with Wyoming International Film Festival if we had the budget, and eventually it is part of our goal to get there. And that is to have a grant that we give to Wyoming filmmakers.
Hmm.
So in a way that multiple filmmakers could apply for the grant, they go through a selection process. There's, some degree of vetting in there. And then we give them money and mentorship to go make their next film.
Okay.
And in that case, we're literally putting our money where our mouth is and supporting the indie filmmaking community in Wyoming by doing that. But two, it's an investment. It's an investment in the film industry for a particular state. If you start growing it from within and homegrown and grassroots, and that way filmmakers are more likely to stay in state, filmmakers are more likely to bring more projects into the state. One hand washes the other, that hires more local hires, that increases the economy. It's a snowball effect, but it takes decades to get there. And it's one of the things that I'm very passionate about doing, and I'm going to use the arm of the film festival to hopefully get that started in the next year or two. But I think we're not the only film festival that's looking at that. You are starting to see more development programs on smaller scales with film festivals all around, where they're starting to support either local filmmakers or filmmakers that have some kind of a special relationship with a film festival. And those development programs are just going to be another way that filmmakers can utilize a film festival as a tool to help them increase their profile and launch their career.
Okay. Cool. So that's where you see the future of film festivals going. How about the future of independent filmmaking?
It's harder and harder every year. So I heard someone say 10 years ago, indie film is dead. And I don't entirely disagree with the statement, but I do. Indie film has changed. Audiences' tastes have changed. Unfortunately, with accessibility, there's also oversaturation. And what I mean by that is, back in the day, you had to have a certain amount of money to buy film. And you had to have a certain amount of expertise in order to shoot film and edit film and develop film and so on and so forth.
Right.
And then digital comes out, and that kind of levels the playing field. And you see a huge spike in filmmakers who wouldn't have ever had a chance before. Now, because of digital, it's far more accessible.
Yeah.
But also you see a huge spike in filmmakers that don't really have the technical ability or the storytelling chops or whatever to pull off a good story. And sometimes that's just a degree of practice that they need. And sometimes that's a degree of, frankly, they're just not that good at it. And that's okay. I mean, I'm not good at a lot of things. So it's totally fine. And then streaming comes around. So before, if you made an indie film, you get a deal with like Blockbuster or whatever. And that's how you made money as an indie filmmaker. Now streaming comes around, and streaming has made it almost impossible for filmmakers to get paid, because streaming is dirt cheap. There's nothing physical, and streaming services essentially can lie about the numbers as much as they want, and there's nothing you can do.
While that is certainly true, let's not pretend that distributors never lied about their numbers either. Like,
True.
I've interviewed quite a number of people who have been, like, I've interviewed lots of modern filmmakers who put their stuff out on streaming, and I've interviewed a fair number of people who have had many decades long careers and worked a lot with traditional distributors. And every single person in that second category that I've interviewed has at least one story about being screwed out of hundreds of thousands of dollars by a distributor.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, distributors have been predatory for indie filmmakers since, the first movie house opened.
Yeah.
And you are absolutely right. It is much. It's always been a case where distributors can lie about numbers. It is much easier for them to do that with streaming. And on top of, without the physical media, streaming is pennies on the dollar compared to DVD sales or VHS sales or whatever, back in the day.
Yeah, that's also true.
So the future of indie film, the interesting thing in that regard, I can understand why people say it's dead, because the days of an indie filmmaker making a movie for like $100,000 and then they hit it big and they make millions of dollars, those days are long gone. Those days have been gone for a long time. I do disagree that indie film is dead, because I have never seen more indie films than I do today. People still want to watch movies. People still want to make movies. I think indie film is getting more and more clever by the day. 10 years ago, having big special effects in a movie was super, super expensive and almost impossible. Nowadays, I see indie films with a budget of like $30,000 that have a VFX pass that looks like it belongs in a multi-million-dollar movie. And they're bringing stories to the screen that even 10 years ago were inaccessible for indie filmmakers. Nowadays, the quality has shot through the roof. And like I said, with accessibility, you have more filmmakers in it, so you do have oversaturation. So standing out in the marketplace is more difficult for indie filmmakers. But I think that indie filmmakers today have more opportunities than they have ever had. And in that regard, how can indie film be dead? I think we're just getting started.
Yeah, I think I almost completely agree that we're in terms of the production of independent cinema, it's far easier than it ever has been. And the thing you were specifically talking about, how there used to be such a large barrier to entry to make any film at all, just because of the cost of the film itself and the expertise needed to develop it and make copies of it and everything like that. I was just thinking about that recently and thinking about how that has shaped the industry and how different the physical techniques needed these days are. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. It used to be the case that if you could make a film, then the odds that you could find a sizable audience for your film were quite good. And nowadays, that is no longer the case. But the difficulty of making the film itself is much lower.
Yeah. And obviously there's good and bad with everything. It's one of those things. I don't like to lament on the good old days and how great things were, blah, 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 blah. Instead, I like to look at the future and be like, where are the opportunities? Obviously with integrated marketing with social media and everything, you can create so much buzz for your film without ever talking to a single, Hollywood Reporter or Deadline or anything like that. A great example of that is last year at the Wyoming International Film Festival, we had a film called Hundreds of Beavers, and it's amazing. It's so good. It's so funny. And when you look at the marketing that filmmaking team has done for that film, it's genius. They are absolutely brilliant, because the movie is about a fur trapper fighting hundreds of beavers, and the beavers are dudes dressed up in costumes of beavers. And so all of their marketing material, they just have those costumes, and they're constantly producing marketing material for it. So it's constantly fresh, and it's always in people's, feed, and it's always right at the forefront of any conversation with it. And because of that, you go on to Letterboxd, you look at their reviews. I mean, their reviews are out of this world.
Wow.
How much attention they have gotten on the film, and they haven't gone the quote unquote traditional marketing route with it. So filmmakers today have these opportunities that we didn't even have even a decade ago. Like, yeah, social media existed a decade ago, but not like it does today. So
Yeah.
instead of looking at it as this daunting thing that some giant hurdle you got to get over, I think look at it as an opportunity to make your film stand out in your unique way.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on and talking about your film festival and film festivals in general. This has been really enlightening. I've learned a lot.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
So where would you like to direct people to follow along with the Wyoming International Film Festival and submit and or attend it themselves?
So the Wyoming International Film Festival plays in July every year. So we've already played for 2023, but 2024 is coming up. If you are interested in submitting, go to Film Freeway, type in Wyoming International Film Festival. You will find us rather quickly. We're the one with a bunch of buffalo, a bunch of bison in the pictures. If you do want to submit, you can submit through there, or you can go to our website, which is WYOIFF.com. If you are interested in following our Reddit deep dive series, we are on Reddit as user Wyoming Film Festival. So go to Reddit, just type in u/Wyoming Film Festival. You will find us, and you will find our 7-part deep dive series on film festivals and what to do and how to navigate the festival circuit.
Awesome. I look forward to reading the rest of that as it comes out, which it should all be finished by the time anybody's listening to this. So yeah, go check that out, everyone. Thanks again for coming on.
All right, thank you so much for having me, Thomas.